Welcome back to Streamline, where we are helping you to thrive and survive in business. My name's Holly Nixon, Head of Marketing. And today we are joined by Andreea and Adina from EMAAA. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
Good. Do you want to give us just a short overview, I guess, of what you ladies do and how you help business?
We can tell you about each of us our personal story, because I think it's easier to understand how we get here. So each of us has 20 years in corporation experience. I work 10 years in customer service, 10 years in HR, climbing the corporate ladder, getting promoted and getting all the ranks that I wanted, because it was important to be the perfect girl who is doing everything. And at one point, I got into a burnout after years and years of ignoring all the signs that my body was giving to me. So I wasn't the nicest person in the room with my colleagues. I did go to ask for support for my manager or for people around, but nobody was talking about that. They didn't understand how to deal with my emotions. So the help, I felt it's not actually there. And in the end, I had months of where I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat very well. I couldn't rest very well. So of course I was tired all the time and not my best self. And I went to the GP, and luckily enough in UK, they kind of know the signs. So I was given 2 weeks off to relax. And 2 weeks, they went to 2 more weeks. And I actually had around 3 months where I didn't work. And then I had to phase return back to work. I had a new team in the same time. So a lot of challenges. I decided to go back in the same company and to overcome that, because I think it's both my responsibility and the company where I got. So it wasn't to blame anybody. But all that situation created a whole shift in me. And I started to focus on my well-being, to understand what signals my body is giving me, and then to actually apply everything I learned on my team. I had a whole new team, 7 people, and I said, let's try, instead of the task, to focus on the well-being to see what changed. And it created a whole change in my team and then in the whole department. It reverberated into, it was so nice to just see, when you don't focus solely on tasks, what can actually happen with people when you start asking them, how do you feel today? What's happening with you? What's going on? And from here, talking with Andreea, who was in another company, we kind of decided to help people on a broader scale. And that's how EMAAA came about, the company, which stands for Emotional Mental Awareness, with Andreea and Adina. And the idea came, 4 years ago, I think.
On a holiday.
It's always a holiday. Because you're relaxed.
Yeah.
Right?
My story is a little bit different, similar but different. We're both Romanian originally. So we bet at a big corporation called HP. And we were both hired at the same time. Then we clicked. Adina went to UK, and I remained in Romania, going to different corporations, always performing different roles, vertically, horizontally, working with teams all over the world, a lot of pressure, strategies, restructuring, a lot of overtime for some people. And, the deep corporate pressure, work, KPIs, performance, all of that, just never ending. And I went through a burnout as well. I didn't say anything to anybody. I'm a high energy person, so it was noticeable in the fact that I was low on energy. But, I get tired as well, and I didn't stop. I was not able to stop. I couldn't even admit to myself I needed to stop, to relax, to breathe. I need to work. I need to be present. My team, what would my team do without me? Things like that. And it went on, and I developed an autoimmune disease, which actually threatened my life at a certain point.
Wow.
And that was the moment I say, something's got to give.
Yeah.
So I came back to myself, and I started a series of therapies, a lot of work, healing. And years later, I was actually able to put myself first.
Good.
And to decide that my health is more important than everything. And then years later, I moved to UK as well. We reconnected, and we built EMAAA to help people who've been through the same, or at least the idea is to prevent people from going where we've been, because it's been hard. And to have something threatening your life just because work, or was not only work, it was a whole range of circumstances. It was work, it was personal life, it was my inability to take care of myself, basically. So, yeah.
Wow, interesting. And do you know what? Straight away, listening to that, it is totally relatable. I feel like I go through burnout at least twice a year. There seems to be this thing in the UK about this hustle culture. And I don't know if you come across it a lot, just who can be seen to be hustling the most, working the hardest, earning the most money. Like there's never any simplicity or just simpleness around work, career. Like, you know, go home, you finish your work and you come home and you switch off. It's like, you know, who gets brownie points, especially when it comes to promotions in the workplace and things like that. Who gets brownie points for being in earlier than they should be, you know, contracted? Who gets the promotion because they're last one in at night? Who's working weekends? And it's crazy how the workplace is really based around that.
We need to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
So I need to prove to others that I'm good enough, that I can be appreciated, that I deserve more money, more connection. And it's something, it's not, the culture does encourage it, but it's something within us that calls for that as well.
Yeah.
We talk
Validation.
about, we talk about responsibility, radical responsibility in our method. And radical responsibility is that place where you are centered and aligned and fully accountable for what's happening in your life. And the first thing you do, you don't throw blame around. It's the workplace that's responsible. It's a toxic culture. It's my manager who's demanding things from me. Absolutely. There are things like that. We don't deny it. But from that place inside of me, what calls to that? Is that little girl inside of me just, look at me, see me.
Yeah, I hear that. And we lack boundaries then as well.
We lack boundary, and I think it's also part of our method. We lack self-awareness, because in order to become responsible, first you need to be aware where you are. So what we're very passionate about is, first of all, do you know your values? What are your negotiable? When you sign that contract with whatever company it is, do you give your power away? They hold this power over you that they can decide when to fire you, when to promote you, when to give you more money. Do you give that power away? Or is it staying still within you? Do you know when you sign the contract, what do you actually sign for? All your life, all your brain, everything? Or do you keep something from that, your emotion? Where does it go? And I think it's very important what values each individual have. And I think a lot of us, we don't think we have non-negotiable. We actually have. When it comes to our family life, we have to stop at somewhere at the boundary. So you start with having a clear set of values that are very non-negotiable to you. There can be some of them that you can adapt. And then from there, you start to set up some boundaries. But you don't set up them and you keep them for yourself. You communicate. And then people are going to try to negotiate them. So it's up to you again to reinforce them and to make sure these are my boundaries. This is what I say. And I think they should start from the moment of the interview.
Yeah.
You cannot accept whatever job just because it's paying the highest salary. And I think especially the new generation have a whole different view than my generation, for example. 20 years ago, I was happy it's the company with the highest employee and it pays good. I wasn't looking so much at, what does it mean, the culture? Or what reviews do we have actually on Glassdoor or somewhere? What are the other employees saying? Because when you see so many saying the same thing, there is a certain team. Do I want to be there? Is it important? Does the employer, who has a duty of care, has any policy in place to make sure people have a checkup point somewhere? They do focus on managers who are actually taking care of the well-being of the employees. How do they deal when somebody has a stressful period? And these are questions that people don't ask in the interview.
I think you've just hit the nail on the head. It really does come from the top, because hearing what you just said there about, going into the corporate workplace and having your boundaries, having your non-negotiables. When I was in the corporate, I also had burnout a lot. And I think it's very, very hard to go into a workplace that is an understanding of your well-being, right? So to be able to go in and say, right, this is my boundary, this is my non-negotiable. Again, there's that fear of what I was saying about like, okay, well, could I lose my job because somebody else is doing the hustling more, longer hours and working harder? Now I work for myself. I have those non-negotiables in place. I have that, you know, holes, that's enough, time away, laptop away, because I can only sack myself, right?
Yeah.
So I love what you guys are doing and going into the workplace and going from that top level, because really it's about getting the workplace to understand this, so that when you or I do go into the corporate space and like, do you know what, this is my boundary, I can't do this right now, but I'll come back to it tomorrow, there's an understanding. So just going straight into it, like, how do you define wellness in the workplace? And what do you believe needs to be done more, and where can people be supported?
I think it's important to understand, we have a terminology that we introduce, your baseline. What does it mean for you? If you take a scale from 1 to 10, what does it mean to you for you to be comfortable and okay, to be somewhere between 5 and 7? And my 5, it's different than hers. My 7 is her 5. She's high energy. I'm much lower energy. So for me, and you know, we are genetically, when we get born, some of us are waking up more happy and with more energy than the other. I need more coffee. She doesn't, for example. We're the perfect example. So you cannot standardize to say everybody needs to be happy and cheerful and whatever. But do you know what means for you? The other example is a traffic light, if it's easier. Do you know where you're on green? When you're happy, when you go to work, where you can take more work on board? Do you know where it is? And then what do you do if you have several days of going over that baseline, over that 5 or 7, you're on 8 or 9? What are your signs? The things that I've done with my team, and it was very impactful, I brought all of them together. I was having well-being meetings, actually, which they enjoyed, because I started with yoga, with simple exercises. And then I said, you bring whatever works for you. But what I ask everybody, each individual, and we were a safe space, and it started for me as a manager. How do I look when I'm upset? Any of you knows when I'm stressed or something, when you cannot ask me a question because I have back-to-back meetings and I don't have time for you. Yeah. Do you know? And surprisingly enough, most of them knew. They knew from the moment I come in the morning, if I say hi or not, how they will be and how to say. I say, okay, you know about me. What about you? What are your signs? Do you withdraw? Do you start talking? Do you start lashing out? Do you not talk with anybody? And then everybody's sharing. And then what are your coping mechanisms? Do you go for a walk? Do you take a deep breath? Maybe you come to me and you tell me you need somebody to help you. What do you do? Can we have a checkup point? And you have to tell me now when you're going on your, if you take the traffic light, because I think for some people it's easier. When you go on amber several days in a row, you will going to hit red. Very easy. But you can have days when you go on red and then come back. That's fine. But me as a manager, what is my responsibility? You as an employee, what is your responsibility? If you don't tell me, and I had 7 employees and I had 10, I had 100, you cannot know everybody, but you can leave the door open and to say, it's okay not to be okay at work. It's fine. Because I think the part that really annoys me the most, and I'm very, I'm an advocate for that, we normalize stress.
Yeah, we do.
We wear it like a badge of honor. How are you? I'm stressed, which means I'm very important. I'm doing... No. It shouldn't be normal to be stressed. You're not signing a contract where you're saying, I'm going to be stressed for this amount of money. I'm going to be even more stressed. Yeah. And if I want to be promoted, I have to be the most stressed person in the team. Well, either you have a problem with the company with the workload, either you have people who cannot manage the workload. What do you do there? It shouldn't be normal to be stressed at work, because what are you left with? You know, how do you fuel yourself in order not to be stressed? So I think that's one of the easiest way. And it's not, again, the manager's fault, the company's fault. It's a shared responsibility. But what's lacking everywhere, it's the openness to talk about emotion. And it's not because management don't want to help. They don't know how to deal with their own emotion.
Yeah, I agree.
As an individual, if you don't know how you feel, what's happening, how can you actually have open the conversation and hold the space for your team to share? And when I was doing that to my team, I was in a department with 300 people. So we had like 10, 20 managers. I said, how do you do with your team? Do you talk? I said, I don't know. If they come to me and they say they are very stressed, I sincerely don't know what to do with them.
So they probably just pass the workload on to the next person, so then that person can become stressed.
Or the other person pick it up because somebody needs to deal it in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's shifting the blame and shifting the responsibility.
Yeah.
And this is coming back to what we discussed before. It's not, if you know your baseline, you're 5'7", you're amber light. How do you get back to that? How do you get back to green? Because we cross over a lot of times.
Yeah.
Life happens. You have personal challenges, you have work challenges, you have periods with a lot of stress, like quarter ends, year ends, depending on the job, right? How is the communication in those periods? Because the first thing that stops then is the communication. So, and then you stop the communication. You don't notice yourself. You don't notice the signals your body is sending you. You get stuck into in a desk, on a chair for hours without moving. So I have a backache. Oh, I have a bellyache. Oh, I'm too busy to eat. So I'm not going to take lunchtime because we have a meeting. I'm not going to go to the toilet on time. And that affects your health, but we don't even recognize that to ourselves, let alone say in a team, you know what, my back is so bad, I cannot sit anymore. Because it's quarter end, we are pushing the same direction. So what's the things that we throw away in order to perform? And how is the strategy, top down, pushing that? Because they're not going to advertise, in quarter end, you need to take care of your back. I'm throwing out an example out there. No, they're going to say, we need more productivity. We need you to be more efficient. We need you to, when they're not going to say that, but in all the conversation and all the interactions, that is implied. And there's a tacit, so there's a contract you sign, and there's the tacit, implicit acceptance of what people don't say.
And it's basic human needs that we need that we're cutting out, isn't it?
It's a connection. And it's not, so you go to a manager and say, I'm not okay. And then he doesn't know, they don't know what to do with it. So creating that space, like Adina said, creating that safety to say, I don't know either, but let's figure it out. That openness.
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. So a lot of large corporations are run by men. And I feel like when it comes to mental health and speaking about your emotions, it's just not going to come from men. Like, I feel like they are at the back. Like, women now more so are coming to the forefront of opening up. I feel like are a lot more understanding. We're a lot more emotional, right? I feel like men, and, I'm not being sexist, but I'm just kind of stating facts right now. I do feel like men are still struggling to open up about emotions, feelings, and in the workplace they're very much business and personal keep separate. Whereas actually, we spend a majority of our lives in work, in our career. So there has to be some sort of understanding, which I know is where you guys come in because you're doing the amazing work in these corporations. But would you agree that is a bit of a split there?
Culturally and economically and, historically, a lot of the people at the front are men. We had a really interesting discussion with somebody at CIPD exhibit last year. He was a man. He was a bit stressed. So he was sweating. He was fidgety. And he stopped at our stand and we talked a little bit and he looked into my eyes and he said, I'm not heard. I would like to have somebody to speak to at work because I'm not okay. But men are not heard. And we were like looking at each other, said, you know what? We never thought from that perspective because we are women and we always fighting to be heard as well.
Yeah.
So there is a lot going on behind the scenes. I love working with men. Their focus, their attention, the way you point them at things and they go straight there and solve things. It's absolutely amazing. Sometimes they don't need to talk about emotions. But in order to talk about emotions in the workplace, one very important component is safety, security. You need to feel safe enough to start the conversation. Yeah. And men are not supposed to cry. Men are not vulnerable. So there's a lot of education and that happens early on that men in our generation miss. And showing up vulnerability, what would the women think of me? Am I going to be the big alpha guy? am I going to have enough confidence to run this thing, to run this team?
And I think, unfortunately, although I do agree, a lot of men, I work in HR where actually I had more women.
Right.
Which is more tiring than having men managers. I think they are good at bad.
Yeah.
And I had women who didn't understand emotion. So it's very tricky to generalize. But it's lovely to see how much they need to open if they are surrounded by women who allow them to be opened. Because we're judging, most of us, most women, we're putting the standard of a man because we're comparing it with a woman. They function totally different. You have to give them something to go. And I think one of the other person with whom we met who was representing 20, 30 companies, I don't know how it was called exactly, the rights of the male people. And he was saying they need a space where they can talk and something to be able to say what they feel. So one of the somatic therapy that we have, which is working with your body, is actually to relax, to detension your body and to reconnect, because I think they are the most disconnected from the body. First of all, they have the same level of testosterone all month. We have cycles.
Yeah.
We go ups and downs.
Yeah.
Before, we all know, and most of the men listening to us know we're different, and they kind of need to adapt and to be careful what they say and all that. With the men, it's the same all month. That's why they can fast. That's why they can do everything. That's why the workplace is designed for men.
Yes, it is.
And the day, it's not designed for cycles for women, right? So they also judge us from that perspective. So we don't have a meeting point where to say, well, I'm like this, you're like this, let's see how you work. But it was funny, in my last company, one team was woman and one of men. It just happened. I can assure you it was easier to work with men if it comes to work. You give them a task. For example, the simple one, try to organize a meeting with women. Organize a chat, WhatsApp group. I tried that with both men and women. With women, I have to do this. This is not fine. What is the food? Is it vegan? Is not vegan? I don't need that. And then with the men, what time? Where do I need to be?
Yeah, fast,
easy. So I think there are things good and bad on both sides, but it's amazing when you have a mixture, how much they have the same needs like us, as long as somebody let them open and they give them kind of a structure where it is. Because they do need to talk, not so much as us.
100%. So you touched on how when you was in the corporate space, as a team leader, you kind of brought everybody in and you were speaking about it on a smaller scale for your team. And I bet that did really great things, opened everybody up. When it comes to corporations, large scale, how are you guys helping to integrate this into that larger corporate system?
Well, we need to start with it's very important who is the owner of the company. That's the other thing, because I had other experience where things like what I tried here wouldn't never be allowed to, because top down, it was an army style. So you didn't have any flexibility. But our plan is to bring managers on board, male, female, it doesn't matter, for them to understand what it means to be self-aware. There is a study made, 80% of the people think they are self-aware. They know what they think. They are very aware of their thinking, their feeling. But in reality, it's around 15%, 1.5%, that when you test them on what does it mean to be self-aware. We all use, we're aware. No, you're not so aware. The fact that you know what you say, you know what you want, doesn't mean you are always coming back when you get into an argument, when you get, the easiest way, when you get triggered. What do? Do you go into the fight? Or do you look at you and say, why is this person triggering me? And the simple example, you go into a team meeting, the director or whoever can throw the latest news, we decided to go this way or to restructure or to whatever, everybody will have a different reaction. Why? And then why are you triggered and the other why not? Why some people are very well seen? Why some people, because it's always this conspiration. Only that person gets promoted, only that person. Yes, we have favoritism everywhere and nepotism. I was told by a lot of people, because you're a foreigner in UK and woman, you can never get promoted. In all the companies I've been, and there were 5, I always got promoted. It never even crossed my mind that I'm Romanian in UK and I'm a woman. Why What would it have to do with the competence? But if you get this mindset that it's something wrong with me, you start to kind of behave in a way that will always enable the other to tell you, yeah, it's something wrong with you, because you start to shame yourself and to excuse yourself. Oh, maybe I'm missing something. No, we're not missing anything. But going back to your question, I think we have to start with the managers. The biggest company and the one that I work for, one was 30,000 employees worldwide. They do have well-being officers or well-being directors, but they only look at benefit sides. They only look at the salary and to have this EAP, which in UK is quite big. And I have people who tried, they weren't very happy, just to call. You do have a duty of care as an employer. The problem with the mental health and with the emotional health is that it's not seen until it becomes physical, or until somebody calls in sick.
Yeah.
They think it's not a problem. You saw the sign. It's impossible to have the same person you have in the first day. You can see it's something, it's happening, it's changing in the behavior. What do you do? Do you do checkup? For me, it was always mandatory to meet with the team at least once per month. Some managers don't see them except once per year.
Wow. So much can happen in a year of your life. Deaths, births,
and
stress.
Going back to what Adina said before, in big corporations, they have rules, procedures, strategies they need to adhere to. So they need to have a lot of agreement in the back. Our idea to work with managers is to build champions, mental health, mental emotional health champions, who can be either manager or informal team leaders, who can lead by example, and also promote prevention. We are talking. We can do only so much after people get sick, or after people get into an argument, after something is wrong. So we're expecting something to break, to take measures. The idea is to do something before, to have a plan in place before that happens. And we have built a method for that based on our experience. It's called corporate deconditioning. Deconditioning, why? Because conditioning is what we go through once we enlist in an organization. No matter what the organization, we need to learn certain rules, we need to follow certain steps. So there is a conditioning. You have to wear certain clothes, talk a certain way. So that's the conditioning part. Deconditioning means simply decide whether that conditioning works for you at any given moment. And we have 3 big pillars for it that we can customize, and we build it on purpose so we can customize it. And the big pillars are radical self-awareness, and it goes on 4 dimensions: emotions, thoughts, sensations, so working with inside the body, and actions. Are they aligned? And let's sit with it for a while. So what does it mean for you? What does it mean for me? Okay, what does it mean for all of us as a team? What does it mean for all of us as a company? Because it's a conversation that needs to happen. What does wellness, what is your baseline? What does well-being mean to you? The second step is radical responsibility. Full ownership of everything that's happening with you, through you, not at you or to you. So it's as simple as following up on emails. Yes, maybe this is not something you receive something in your inbox. It's not for your team. You pass it on, but you received it. So you are a part of that. So what's happening? Because a lot of the times these requests go into a black hole. And you saw it. So how much are you responsible for it? I'm not talking about a big deal, but this is a small change that productivity-wise, efficiency-wise can have a big impact on a team. Imagine having a team of people who do follow up on everything. What kind of customers would they have?
Yeah, and everyone says the money's in the follow-up, don't they?
Yeah, and then the third step is actual transformation, because once you are self-aware and responsible, you can actually decide this works for me. Or if not, okay, let's see where we go from there. We have a toolbox full of tools that we can use. We know our baseline, we know our triggers, we know our boundaries, we know our values. We are fully responsible for them. Okay, what do we want to do now? And that's a bigger conversation.
That's a big conversation. You've touched on some of this, but what are some common misconceptions about mental health in the workplace? Is it just a case of, I'm not feeling great today, I'm not in a great place? What is the real...
I can tell you, for me, first of all, it's a sign of weakness to show that you have some challenges, that you're not productive as usual. For me, the trickiest thing is to actually say out loud to my team that I went through a burnout. I did it 1 year later, and I didn't say to them. They didn't know where I was. Before I went into a burnout, I hired, I think, 4 or 5 people. After I came out of it, in 3 months, 2 were gone because I didn't have time for them. One of our manager didn't have time. So then start again with all of them. And it took me 1 year to say, only after I heard another director saying, because I felt, and it's all about me and everybody else, I felt that if I say I had a burnout, who is going to employ me? Who is going to think I'm good? Who is going to think I can be a good manager? What does it say about me? And that's one of the misconceptions is this. We don't talk about it. We don't open. We don't share our stories. And then after I open up, guess what? Other people told me, it happened to me. Well, why didn't you say it happened before me? If you would have said the same like me. The other thing, I think we consider that a long time being stressed, you can resolve it with a holiday.
Yeah.
I'll just take some time off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it takes you 1 week to detach, another week to actually get out. And then you go back. And guess what? The stress is there.
Do you know what? I always feel like I actually burn myself out right before holiday because you're trying to fit 2 weeks worth of work in that week before you go away on holiday. I don't know if that's relatable to anyone.
Everybody's doing, because you don't want, if you're coming back, you're going to come back to a full inbox or to a full workload.
Yeah.
That nobody's going to do it in your absence.
No.
Now, in the corporate world, theoretically, and that's what I was doing with my team, you should have a handover. If you disappear tomorrow, if something happens, if you decide to go and travel to see the world, you should have somebody who is able to take over. But this part of training people, cross-training them, it doesn't happen most of the time. Managers are not prepared, they don't have the time, and they don't have the resources. So they don't think they should have this preparation. They even don't have documentation, like the basic thing.
That's a big one.
It's a very big thing. And the other one that it's really annoys me, a lot of people consider that their own unicity and what makes them very replaceable is if they hold to some information.
Yeah.
That's not the point. It's how you process that. The information should be accessible for everybody. We all have unique qualities. We all solve the same issue in different ways. We're very creative. So if you share the responsibility, if you share even the pain, if you open the discussion, look, I'm not having the best day. Can you help me with this meeting? Can you help me with that? Then it will feel like the work is kind of divided. We have this challenge now. We're working remotely.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. I mean, how did it impact with COVID? Because for me, I would have thought, well, everyone's at home, living their best life. They've got the time. They haven't got anyone over their back of their shoulder. But equally, people were on their own. So what happened around COVID with corporations? Did you see an impact there?
Yeah. I can say I went through a breakout and I broke up with my boyfriend.
So did I.
Did you?
It was like the clear out season.
Yeah, it's like you kind of everything that you were trying to ignore. It's there.
Yes.
You cannot. It's 24 hours. You work together. You stay together, and you don't even have. And that's the problem. Your boyfriend, your partner, whatever, becomes everything. Your boyfriend, everything. Father, mother, whatever. So that was one. And I had also the burnout in the same time. And most of the people were feeling very disconnected. So,
yeah, I think in some aspects, COVID was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because what it forced people to do, and it was forcing, nobody wanted to do it, was get people back to themselves. So there was no one around. So I get to spend time in my own head. Do I like it here? Not so much. And then all of the bad things from the past just starting pouring. And a lot of issues we usually sweep under the mat. No time for it now, we'll do it later, just suddenly popped up in families, working with children, so not sending children away, nursery, working from home, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, everywhere, not taking time off, not having a clear boundary between professional and personal life, all that suddenly came to the forefront of everything. Because what people usually do, and I did it as well, I went to the office and I had a separate life there. I was a different person in the office. I was wearing this mask. I am okay. Nothing can touch me here. I do my work. I concentrate on it. Nothing else matters. And then I go home and I'm a totally different person. I have energy to do all the things I want to. In reality, that's not real. That's a fairy tale, a movie that came crashing down during COVID.
Yeah.
And that I am the same person in work and at home. Everything I do at work, if I have a fight with somebody in work, guess what? I'll go home angry and I'm going to take it out on my family. Very few people actually do the separation. I have a fight with my partner or my family. There is something going on, a money issue.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm going to take all that in work. And then a colleague will address me and I will go like lash out, not knowing that is something inside me, emotions that boil and start coming out. So in that perspective, COVID showed us we need to actually focus on our mental health.
Yeah. It was really, really heavy time that. I remember it. Well, I think we all remember it. It's something that will never leave our minds. I mean, it was very much bittersweet. But yes, I totally agree. I'm just thinking from my own experiences. I definitely hid myself away in the bedroom doing work because it was just that quiet space that you needed away from the partner, away from the child. And yeah, like you said, there was literally nowhere to go, no one to rant to. But it's interesting because there was such a shift in the way that we worked. And I think we continue to work. Like businesses do allow people to work remotely now. And I don't know whether that's more of a choice now, whether they can go in the office or whether they can work from home. Do you think there's like a good balance? Do you think people should go into the workplace and that should be where they focus? Or do you think it's important to have a bit of an option for employees?
It depends on the company. So company makes those rules. I think it will be a really good conversation to have with everybody and agree on what works for most of the people there, because there is this danger of isolationism, of people falling through the cracks, especially the ones that are not aware enough. I'm saying that with all the love and all the kindness. I was one of them. It almost killed me, but you don't know what you don't know. So how do we take care of people? How do companies do that duty of care? And at the same time, how do we encourage employees to take responsibility for their own mental health? So there needs to be a conversation. There needs to be a negotiation. There needs to be some oversight. Not I'm leaving that person. That person is good. I know he's good. And I'm talking to him once a year. Let's do a little bit more. And corporate events can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved a corporate event.
Yeah. So not only, we meet and have a drink or stuff like that, but it could be, I used to love strategy meetings at a certain point. The brainstorming, the energy, we're doing something, we're changing the world, we're creating new products, we're creating new systems. There is an energy in that's amazing and that should be used. So finding that balance is a conversation, and some people do it better. Some companies do it worse. So I am a bit, I don't want to go into that fight because right now there is a fight. A lot of the companies just say all the people should go back to the office full time. Due to COVID, that doesn't work anymore. So finding that balance and having that conversation, I think it's important.
We've talked a lot about resources and just communication being, I think, the most simple and effective way to open up people and see where they're at mentally. But do you think businesses, or do you know if businesses are budgeting for wellness within their business?
Well, we know some people who are actually trying to get some laws and to enforce that on the companies to budget for that. I think they only do a budget when it hits their their numbers and that's the biggest discussion and the biggest challenge also for us. How do you actually put a number? How much does it cost to mental health the company? Now in UK, it's from 45 billions up. It costs a lot. An employee's absenteeism due to mental health, it costs from half of the yearly salary to 2 times. Because you have to think, if somebody goes sick, first of all, you don't know for how long. I didn't know. I started with 2 weeks. It lasted 3 months.
Wow.
And then I had to go on a phase return from 2 hours, building up to 7 hours or 8 hours, how much I was working. Nobody replaced me. Not that I'm irreplaceable, and nobody's irreplaceable. But it costs. When you have somebody sick, you don't know for how long. They cannot tell you. And then you need to post the job. You need to go through recruitment. That takes hours. You need to train. And then until we all know in most of the company, depending on the job, it takes between 3 to 6 months to start getting the money back from whatever you invest in that person. Because nobody can, I'm hiring you and I'm delivering the same like somebody who is there for years. So if you look at numbers, how do you prevent that? The biggest challenge in some companies, and that I think it should be mandatory, you should have an exit interview, hopefully with somebody external, where that employee is asked, why are you leaving? Well, you shouldn't even get to that because you should have some checkup when you kind of should know when the employee is leaving. What's happening? You will see is the same employees from the same manager or from the same department. It's too much pressure. It's too much anything. And I think if the company will start looking how much does it cost in reality, the sickness, we all know there is a healthy turnover. The healthy turnover is 10%. If you go over 15, 20, 25, you have a problem. You need to look what's happening there. You shouldn't normalize stress and everybody should leave and go and I don't care, I'm going to replace the person. Yes, you're going to replace, but it costs a lot. And you're not keeping.
And it makes me think, like, are these the people that are trying to cut down, maximize as many projects, as many jobs to these employees, max their load. Yeah. But actually, if you'd put another, 40, 50 grand in your budget for employees, bring in somebody else. If employees could give limits and say, right, no one employee is able to work on more than, 3 projects at a time, or you are not allowed, or if you have a lunch break, you have to go on your lunch break. Like if you really put that as a rule, all these little things would just make, that 1% better, that
who is enforcing
compound
that?
Effect.
Who is enforcing it? I can tell you I was trying that. And my team was saying, but I have to work. I said, it doesn't matter. You have to take your break. What is more important at the end of the day? Because we were having organized mindfulness session once per week where you go and meditate or you do something. And they weren't going because they were thinking, you are so brainwashed, and unfortunately that's the word.
That's what I thought of you.
You are so brainwashed in the company that you don't even think that you have an option and a choice to choose your... look at the long-term effect. And I know and I don't wish on anybody to go through burnout. I don't think it's normal. I don't think you should have it often. But once you go through that, you know what are the effects on that. So how can you prevent... And how can you ensure? So I was actually telling them, no, you have to go. The work can wait. I can tell you, your brain can't. If you ruin your mental health in whatever company you are, it will be hard for you to go to an interview, to perform, to get a job, because your self-confidence, it's going down rapidly. And also, you're not going to be productive for the company. And I think that's where most of the corporation don't understand that. If you don't have, engagement and productivity and efficiency, it's very, very connected with how well do you feel. And the easiest way for any manager to realize when they have a problem in the team, when they ask a question, what do you think we should do? Nobody answers. And I've seen so many meetings like that.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's kind of like a bit of a cat and mouse situation, isn't it? Like until you've experienced burnout yourself as an employee, you don't appreciate what your manager's trying to do for you. So it's like a dance. You've got to be dancing at the same time with your manager to appreciate what they're trying to do for you. But if you as an employee aren't taking them up on that, that's on you.
Exactly. But that's how do you as a company, and then they say, but I feel sick because the company gave me so many projects. Yeah, but the company also, it's mandatory every 2 hours to have 2 hours and 15, you to have a break of 10 minutes. Do you take it? Right. What is your non-negotiable? You. Do you go for lunch? You have an hour. Normally, in all the UK companies, the lunch break is not paid. If you're working in your lunch break, you're doing overtime. If you go home after you finish work and you're still thinking of work, you're doing overtime. And I will advise everybody to ask, how married are you with that company? What is your relationship? Because if you're doing overtime, and I was doing a lot of overtime, I was thinking weekends and all that, how to solve the latest problem in the company. I didn't even realize that I'm doing overtime. And one of the values for me in the corporate world was money. It was important. What is your love language? That's another thing. We have love language in relationship, and we also have a project that we're working on that. What is your motivation to go to the job? Is it money? Is it a new project? What keeps you entertained? And also, even with that, if you're doing what you love, you can still get to a burnout. And you know that.
Yeah.
We are also having our own business. You can get burnout wherever. What are your limits? Where do you stop yourself? And how do you monitor yourself? Because nobody can come to tell you, you don't look so well 2-3 days in a row. What do you think? No, I'm fine. What do you mean?
It's a great point.
Yeah, it's a question of resources. So resources are limited. The company's resources are limited. Your internal resources are limited. And what to do when the motto is do more with less. With less what? With less brain, with less sleep, with less people. So how do you go around that? I was always a high performer. So every job I had, they replaced me with 3 to 5 people.
Wow.
And they weren't paying me for 3 to 5 people. And it was on me. I let them do that to me because as a high performer, you have a certain drive. You have an energy, you have a drive, you have a curiosity, you connect well. So you have your fingers in a lot of pies. And everybody comes to you. And it's good. It makes you feel good when people come to you and ask you. You feel powerful. But in reality check is you're just a number. And there is a big fall from a pedestal to you're just a number.
Yeah.
And it really shakes your self-esteem and your self-confidence because you can do it. But at the same time, in the back of your head, you always have to prove you can do more.
Yeah.
And that comes from childhood. That comes from family. That comes from education. And we all carry that.
Yeah.
So we all carry that information into work. It's in your family, how you were raised, it's how you were taught in school, and that's the basis of your personality. You cannot change that. You can go there through therapy, through coaching, all the things we are doing with people, but awareness is a big part of it. So you take yourself with all that, with all your triggers, with all your wounds, into a company, and they say, you are the best. And you say, yes, of course I am. Let me prove it to you.
Yeah.
And you don't stop. And there's also that voice inside of you. If you stop being good enough.
Yeah.
So how do you put whatever KPIs are in place, rules and regulation and stuff you can do, how do you commit to that with your internal resources? And do you honor them? Because you definitely honor the companies. And again, that's a larger conversation, but are you aware of that? Are you aware your resources are limited? Because if you put more in work, guess what? You take from home.
Oh, 100% I felt that. 100%. I feel like you guys are giving me a therapy session right now. We've talked a lot about, businesses and speaking with managers, but there's going to be some people listening to this that don't have the luxury of, managers being able to have these conversations or aren't aware about wellness. If you're an employee listening to this, what are some great techniques that you can do yourself to just kind of bring you back down, prevent the burnout? What do you see people do?
One thing we are very passionate about is working with the body. So we get very disconnected. We work a lot with our minds. Sometimes we work with emotions. There are therapies available which are great and they work, but we don't live in our house, our temple, our bodies. So one very simple tools we can provide is a technique that helps you release tension and stress and trauma from the body. No need for words. It works great with men. They absolutely love it. And you have it. It's inside of you, but it got suppressed. So there are simple exercises to activate that and you release all the tension and stress.
Give us an example.
Well, there are two kinds of stress. Stress that is old, trapped emotions, wounds from the past, and there is daily stress, right? So we had a 4-hour drive here. We are a bit tired. That's stress. And that feels in the body. We have a bit numb legs. I'm standing right here. I feel a bit my back. So that's something that I can feel. Maybe I get a bit of headache later. So, I am aware of myself. I feel this in the body. So I do a couple of stretches and then I get on the floor and let my body just release that. It's called tremor, tension trauma release practice. It's super powerful, super easy. And you're working to regulate your nervous system.
Love that.
Where we're talking about that scale in the beginning is about getting to know that scale from 1 to 10. What is your 5 and 7? And when you go over it or sometimes under it because you get too tired, you're undercharged, how do you get back to it? And your body will tell you. And it's the amazing thing is that it goes where it needs to go. So you become a witness, you let your mind aside, and you focus on the inside. And it works. We offer sessions like that, packs of 10 sessions. We also offer employees lessons on how to move to have a better position, have a better posture. Yeah, because it's very easy to do that, but not everything that ergonomics says or a posture is good for everybody because we are so individual.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? We test, we experiment, and we learn what works for us. And that can be, this works for you now, but 10 weeks from now, well, something happened and the position is no longer good for me, but I know how to adjust it because I know how my body sits. And there are lessons on that. We also do 1-to-1, 2-to-1 because we're two, coaching and a mix of therapy and coaching. We call it inner mastery. And we start from this. What do you need?
Right.
What point are you at? And what's the plan in 6 months? So let's see how to get there.
And being mindful of that 6 months of what they want to achieve, whether that's in work and how that's going to help make them feel mentally and things like that, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools we can use, right? So we constructed everything we constructed based on our personal experience. And we've been through a lot. And we took from everything the things that really worked for us, that are tested. And we also are very, very mindful. People are very different.
Yeah.
So we built a toolbox, right? We called it stress-proof PP for your work life. So some people resonate more with some tools. Some people resonate more with others.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of grounding exercises. We have physical exercises. We have a lot of coaching techniques. We have some therapeutical techniques that can go into the mix. We work with emotions. We also work with inner child. So a mix of all of that because people are very, very different.
Really getting to the root cause by the sounds of things.
We have to go deep because I think everything that was applied in the company I was, it was basically to tick some boxes. So we did have speakers for managers. They took us for 1 day. I remember, imagine, they called the manager around 50, I think, 30 to 50 people we were there. And I asked at the end of it, what do you remember from all this talk today? That I need to go to bed sooner. It wasn't going into the depth of the problem because what I feel most of the corporative people, everybody actually, they need to be heard. They need to say, I have this issue. Tell me, what do I do with that? And that's what we love the most, to understand what are your needs, what's happening to you. Tell me, and then we will come with different solution. Breathing works very well. Everybody can do, the 4, 7, 8.
I love breath
breathing.
work.
Breath work, it's amazing. And the easiest way, and everybody says, I don't know how to meditate or whatever. There is no way of doing it bad or good. Do whatever it works for you. For some people, and it is, I will challenge everybody who doesn't like to meditate. What's happening when you meditate? The people usually get headaches because it's so busy, their mind, that they cannot do that. 5 minutes, try to stop your thoughts. It's impossible. But at least when that thought is coming, just focus on your breath, let the thought go and say, it's fine, I see you, go. And then go back to your breathing. If you do that 5 minutes in a break where You have 10 to 15 minutes break. That's one of the easiest things to do. Do a stretch. Get out of the house. Don't negotiate your breaks. I wasn't going up for half of the day. Back-to-back meetings shouldn't be the norm. If you have back-to-back meeting, ensure you have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I started with, but there is another meeting. I'm sorry, I need 10 minutes to go to toilet. I don't know what can happen without me for 10 minutes. For sure, not so many things. So employees can do that. And I think we have to be this change. If your manager is not helping you, help yourself and then show that. You can say, look, for me, it works that. What about you? How does it work for you? Let's talk about, and I would love all the manager when they start their one-to-one to ask their report or their colleague, how do you feel today?
Yeah.
I'm curious. From 1 to 10, give me a number. That's the easiest way. Oh, I don't feel good. Okay, and then what do I do with that?
And give insight into your home life. Like, I know it's work, but, home life and things that happen to us externally do impact us in the workplace as well. We've touched so much on burnout today, and we've vaguely gone over, different signs and symptoms. What would you really say are the signs that you are burnt out?
For me, it was headaches. And that's most of the people when you keep having migraines. So all of us, when you are stressed, anything that is stressing you, you have a pain somewhere. For me, I have migraines. Other people have stomach trouble. Other you have bowel movements. There are so many things. Whatever you have, because that's where the stress is getting stored in your body. If you see that repeating, try to do something before you need to go to the doctor. It can be you cannot sleep very well, or you sleep a lot and you don't feel rested. You're not yourself. Hopefully somebody's telling you. Most of the people are very polite, especially in UK.
Yeah.
We don't say that.
You look bad.
In Romania, we would say that. You look like shit today. Is everything okay?
We have very people-pleasing mentality over in the UK.
Yes, but suffering a lot.
Yes.
That's the suffering, because it's you are people pleaser, but on the other hand, I would have liked to be able to say what I feel. Because you still feel that. If you don't express it, doesn't mean you don't have it there. So at least somebody around you to tell you, or you start to realize, I'm not myself now. What's happening? Well, and use the traffic light system is the easiest tool. Monitor yourself in 1 week. How many days are you on green? And you will see, I was doing an Excel for that. I had somebody in occupational health that was giving me some ideas when we were talking through that. And when I start monitoring myself, I say, okay, that's not very good. What do you do when you keep seeing that you're on amber and you're not fine? Do you do anything?
Yeah.
Or you are waiting for the red? I don't know. That's your whole responsibility. And take responsibility for your well-being. Don't say they did it, the company did it, because they can replace you the next day. I have a very sad example, a big director who died in the company working for 8 years, I think. The job was advertised 24 hours later. That's how important we are all. It's fine. It's good to know that you're not the most important. So you are the most important in your life.
Yeah.
Do something about that.
Brain fog, clumsiness. So some people think they're clumsier than usual. I usually, when I was very tired, I stick knives in my hands. I cut myself. I just, cutting vegetables. I just.
You didn't actually stick the knife.
I was
because it sounds like you were cutting yourself without realizing.
Or bumping into furniture or falling down the stairs a lot, just because I wasn't coordinated anymore. And my mother says, you are clumsy. I was like, it's not normal, because I'm not clumsy. I am an adult, so I'm coordinated. What's going on? Panic attacks. All that comes up during periods of high stress.
Right.
And there is a fine line between stress, overwhelm, and burnout. Because burnout is all that and more in a larger period of time. And the effects are so different because we're very, very individual. And a lot of the times it's combined with sickness as well. So, you have migraines, and migraines, you say, you go to the doctor, says there could be many, many causes of that.
Yeah.
Or bowel issues, many, many causes of that. So it's a bit, like Adina said, take responsibility for yourself. And this is my baseline. So this is how I'm usually. during the day, during a week, during a month? Do you have a checklist for yourself? Do you know when you're the most productive or less productive?
Like a weekly check-in with yourself.
Yeah,
almost.
I'm really bad at mornings. I'm not a morning person. Genetically.
51% of us are not morning person.
Yeah, so
I'm part of that.
Yeah, so it's all fine.
Yeah.
Don't blame yourself. But Andreea said it right. Do you know how you are? And that's what we're doing in our course. The first 2 weeks, actually, it's monitor yourself, and it's so easy. Just do it a week or 2 weeks, and you will see how you are. Also, in the corporate world, where we were doing as a team, monitor the activities you're doing. So see how much time you waste on meetings that they can be on email, or on meetings that shouldn't happen, or on whatever. Where do you say no? And one of the questions that I love the most, how many times you said yes when you wanted to say no? And how does it feel? And the other way around. How does it feel when you do that? And why do you do it? Where do you negotiate yourself? What do you give in order to be well seen? Okay, what does it take from you? Because it chips away a little, and the basic needs that we have, it's to belong to a company, but also to be unique. Now, what's happening in a company? Most of us cannot be unique, so we lose our whole personality and our whole traits, what makes us unique, just to belong to something. It's very sad. Children do it. We're adults.
It's interesting. I've gone through that phase of my life where I noticed I was people pleasing, saying yes to everything, everyone. And then you get to the point where you become self-aware and you say, right, I'm going to start saying no. But it's not you that struggles with that. It's everybody around you that is so used to you saying yes that they just don't know what to do. But then they blame you for being a bit aggy. And it's like, no, I just have my boundary now. So it's interesting, pulling that power back, how everybody else around you reacts.
It wouldn't have been easier if you start from the beginning.
I know, right? I know. Why didn't I have you ladies in my life to tell me that?
This is a conversation we were having with the people who just finished our course for the TRE that we're talking about, the somatic therapy. And they said, you know what? Now that I understand what's stressing me in my body and how I can release that, and I'm connected, because it's very hard if you don't have any idea what's happening in your body to stay and to say, how do I feel when that person comes to me and is saying me, you're an idiot? Do I think I'm an idiot? Do I think I'm incompetent? For me, it didn't matter. If somebody said that, it's like, I have a very good opinion. That's self-esteem. I have a very good opinion. It doesn't matter what you're telling me because I know how I am. Most of the people don't do that. They go into this limiting belief, it's something wrong with me, because they go to childhood. Okay, so what do you do with that? Do you have clear boundaries when you sign that contract? We're going back with how we started at the beginning, where you are, and it's the same. And I love this example in a marriage. You sign a paper, or in a partnership, you start, I am this kind of person, you are this kind of person, okay? And somewhere along the way, in general the woman, but also the man, something changes. And you kind of change the terms of the contract, but you forget to tell your partner. And then you get upset that the partner doesn't change in the same time like you. And he's saying, yeah, but when we started, we decided that these are the personality that we're going to have. Well, it's a whole process. It's not that you can learn initially how you are. You evolve. But if the person next to you doesn't evolve in the same time, that's a tricky part. In corporation, I think once you become self-aware, once you know you're non-negotiable, of course things are going to change. But you have to stay true to yourself. And guess what? Normally what I've seen from people going through this, they're going to say, oh, you changed. Oh, I think you're doing fine now. What did you do? Can I do the same?
It's called growth period.
Yeah.
And like any growth period, it comes with challenges. One of them is reinforcing your boundaries, because you'll be tempted to go back. And there are people you really care about. So they look upset. So the old you will resurface. But I want to hold on to them. I want to, I like them. And there's a fight there. How do you manage that? How do you keep on top of that? And there is a whole conversation you have with yourself to see what's the best way. And you will fall back a lot of times just because you like that person. And that's the growth period.
Yeah.
And a lot of your old friends will no longer like you. So you'll find you need new friends.
Yeah.
You need to meet new people. You need to go into different environments, in work as well. So you need to go into different projects. You are talking different. You're behaving different. Your posture is different. And there will be a shaming. So if there will be envious people who say,
She's changed.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's a
good.
problem.
I hope to change in 20 years.
But there will be people who are like, you change good. How did you do it?
Right.
And that's what we want to encourage.
Yeah.
That's why building champions will promote mental health, emotional health strategy better than everything else. Lead by example. We can talk until, that's why we love talking, but we also love body work, because the body does not lie. And speeches are amazing. They do help us, they bring information, but integration, that part where it sinks down into your cells, that's a process. And it takes time, and it takes growth, and it takes negotiating with yourself. It's a mindset shift. And you've done this work 25 years. So now what? You're going to change overnight? So it takes some time to do the adjustment. But I promise you're going to love the new you. It's so empowering.
Ladies, this has been such an amazing conversation. I feel like you've given me so much value. So I know for the listener, they're going to gain so much from this as well. How can people work with you from here?
Well, we have a website that we're working on. It's called weareemaaA.com. We offer courses, so this method that we have. We also offer workshop if we want to, like a taster. We can do also workshop for 1 hour. We also have coaching with therapy that we're combining. We also do somatic therapies. So there are so many options, and the best way is to contact us and explain us the needs of the company or the individual, because we like to work with what the people bring to us.
Amazing. Well, I'll make sure your details are all in our description. And so if anybody is interested in working with you, they can reach out to you. Thank you so much for driving 4 hours. Honestly, it's been so enlightening. And yeah, I just feel like you're going to help and impact so many people with this. And hopefully corporations and businesses, and making sure that we get more wellness talk and support in the workplace, because it's really needed more than ever.
Absolutely. And it's our mission. It's our pleasure. We really enjoy this, and we've been there. So just start the conversation. It's enough. Even if you don't want to work with us now, you never know. We might work in the future, because there is a change. We are learning from you as you are learning from us. It's an exchange, and we love that.
What an ending. And on that, over and out.
Thank you.